In a single project, I can use Objective-C language. In a single project, I can use both languages, Objective-C and a Swift. When I am using two different files, now I have a Swift file here. I will add one more Objective-C. If I want to transfer the data between Swift classes, if I want to transfer the data, I'll simply initialize this one if I have some variable here. I may be having some Swift variable or I'll have some function here. If I want to access any function or any variable from this class to another Swift file, directly I will initialize this, I will access. But if I have Objective-C language, okay, if I have Objective-C class here, how I'll transfer the data from to Swift, or if I want to send the data from Swift to Objective-C, how I can perform these operations. First, I want to add a Objective-C file. Now I don't have any bridging files here. I want to add one Objective-C file, and before this, how the Objective-C file will be generated, and we'll see the headers where it will store. If you go to your project, in the project, build settings will be there. So this is my project. Under the build settings, by default, basic will be selected. You select all here. If you go to Swift compiler, here your Objective-C generated file name will be there. So here I don't have any Objective-C bridging header. So this is empty here. I have only Objective-C generated header name. So this will be the format will be your project name hyphen swift.h. If you go to any project, the Objective-C header name will be your project name hyphen swift.h. Again, if I say here, I don't have any Objective-C bridging header. If I want to import data from Objective-C to Swift, so here I have to pass some header name. How I'll pass the header name? First, I want to create one Objective-C file, new file, and I want to create a class. Here the language, I don't want to give Swift, I'll select the Objective-C language. So now I want to add one Objective-C file here in my Swift project. Next, the file will be created. At the same time, compiler will give you a warning. Do you want to enable Objective-C bridging header? So here we have seen one Objective-C bridging header. If I select this, create a bridging header, here one file will be created, one header file will be created. One header file will be created here. So this is my bridging header file. If I go to build settings, in my Objective-C bridging header, the same file will be generated. If I want to give manually, if I want to create my header file manually, so here how I'll give path name is your project name. So the path always I have to tell where is the file. First, if the file is in my project, so your project name slash, again your project name hyphen, so this can be anything. After this, the case sensitive you have to give small capital bridging hyphen capital header dot h. So this is the file name if you want to create manually. So this is automatically my compiler created it. If this point of time I'll say I don't want to create this, When I create this, so now the file is not there. How I'll create this file manually? I don't have a bridging header file. How I'll create this means go here, new file, create one header file. So if the system not generate any header file for you, create your own header file. Next, name it properly. The name should be your app name, hyphen, the format will be the bridging hyphen header.h. So one file will be generated, sample bridging file will be generated. Now how I'll give the path here? If I create this manually in the build settings, it won't be here. It will be empty here. So here you have to provide the path manually. How I'll provide the path manually? The same project name what you are having slash your file name. What is your file name? The same thing I have to provide.
Excuse me, may I know the topic?
So this is like if I want to transfer data between two different languages. So we have a Objective-C and we have a Swift language. If I want to transfer the data between two languages, so what are the steps we have to follow?
Okay.
So if I want to create this manually, this is the way you have to create manually. Sample bridging icon.h. Here any dots still here? Now this is the first setup that we are doing. The next what I should do. Now I have two different classes. In this class, I have a variable, a Swift variable, and I have a Swift function. Now this class variables I want to access in my Objective-C. So what is the first step I have to follow? First here you have to follow always in Objective-C you have to import the file name. If you import then only we can access. But in the Swift everything is globally, without import also I can access. Then what header file I have to import? The header file you have to import is the build settings, the Objective-C generated header name, whatever it is there, you have to import this. So my header name is sample bridging hyphen swift.h. First, I have to import this. In any number of classes, if you have 10 Objective-C classes, in all the 10 Objective-C classes, if I want to import something in the .m file, so always what Objective-C will do is Objective-C will generate one .h file and one .m file. So what is the difference here? In the .h file, only the interfaces I have to write. Nothing but only the declaration. Variable declaration, function declaration only will be doing here. If I want to define the function in the implementation, I have to write your function. What is the function you want to write? You always should write in the implementation file. Now in the implementation, I want access in the view did load my class name. So how installation will happen? Your class name. So here everything is a pointer. So view controller, to this I have to name something. My view controller. Then by default allocation will not happen like in Swift. So here your view controller you have to allocate, then you have to initialize also. So in Objective-C how it will happen the allocation? If I want to initialize the new controller here, so here by default it will not give you your class name new view controller. For this what I have to do, you have to go to your bridging header. In the bridging header you have to import your Objective-C class name. If I have 10 Objective-C files, all the 10 Objective-C file header names we have to import here in the bridging header. Now I can access new view controller and initializer. So this is a simple process that we follow in the Swift language to initialize. But in Objective-C, this is the process we follow to initialize. Now I'll define a variable here. So where I should define a variable in Objective-C. In Objective-C, if I go to .h, here I have one interface file to declare the objects. If I go to .m, here I have one file to declare. So where I should declare. So in Swift, what we learn, everything is a global. So what is the variable you declare? Any class can access this. But in Objective-C, if I declare some variable in .h file, so if I declare in .h, it is a public. Other classes can access only the .h variables and .h functions. If I declare a variable in .m file, it is a private for this class. So I want to declare a variable in .h so other class can access. If I want to access this in Swift class, so a class already initialized. So what is the variable I have declared here? The same variable I can access in my Swift language. Now I have a Swift variable. I want to access this in Objective-C. So I have declared a class. Now I am not able to access Swift variable. Why I am not able to access means till 53 everything was global and whatever you declare everything was compatible for Swift Objective-C language. But from 54 the Swift code whatever we are writing it will not support Objective-C. So to the variable whatever you are declaring I should say should support Objective-C. So once I say this it should support Objective-C, then this variable I can access in my Objective-C class. Swift variable. If I don't have this here, if if I remove this, here it will show the error. It is not able to find Swift variable from your view controller. So we are providing Objective-C here. If I want to access a function in the Objective-C language, so it is not giving me the Swift function. If I want to access this again, I should say my function should be the Objective-C function. If I say my function is object Swift function, then I can access this. So this is the way we have to follow, and always you should import not the class name. In Objective-C file, if I want to import, always import your Objective-C generated header name. So my Objective-C generated header name, where I can find your header name here. So Objective-C generated header name, the same name you have to input. If I have multiple classes, if I create one more Objective-C, I want to import my Swift language here. So always in the dot time import this import this class. Then in number of classes in any Swift class, variable you can access in your Objective-C file. Now if I have something in second view controller, I have some property. I want to access this in the Swift language. The first thing you have to do, you have to go to your bridging header. You have to import that particular class first. So what are the files you are importing? From only these files, you can access variable to your Swift language. So I have added second view controller. Then only I can access second view controller. If I comment these files, the bridging header, if I don't import this file, I'll simply comment this. So it will throw the error, not able to find the view controller, not able to find the second view controller. So this is the only setup that we have to do when you want to work with two different languages. So maybe you may not get chance to work this, because if there are any old projects, if I have any old projects, so they will be developed that project in the Objective-C language. If I want to develop that, then you don't need to know Objective-C language. You create your own Swift file. So like this, if it is an Objective-C project, create a file, choose the file. So create in the Swift language. Create, the file will be created. If I want to access, follow the setup what we have done. So create the bridging header and go to here, import these files, start working with that. You can access the data. You can work in the Swift language. Now, one more thing, if I have 10 variables here, so I have 10 variables, I have 10 functions. So if I want to access all the 10 variables or all the 10 functions, every time do I need to declare Objective-C? If I have huge variables, so don't mention Objective-C here to the particular variable or the particular function. The class itself, what is the class you are having? The class itself, you make it as a Objective-C members class. So now the entire class will become compatible for Objective-C language, and variables, the functions, you can access anywhere. If I have only one variable, if I want to access only one variable, the only one variable, you make it as a Objective-C variable or the Objective-C class. So any doubts in this accessing better between Objective-C to Swift? Because this you may not work with this, but you may get a questions from this. So if you say in interview that I worked only in the Swift language, I don't know Objective-C. So if they ask, if I give Objective-C project, how you start working on this? So you tell them we'll create the bridging classes. If I want to import the data through the bridging, I will import the data. So the concept name we call as a bridging here. So using the bridging header, you can import data from Objective-C to Swift or the Swift to Objective-C. Any doubts in this? So the next thing,